The sun was bright, but the water beneath was a deep, unnerving indigo. Mark's small fishing boat, the Wanderer, floated motionless. The only sounds were the gentle lapping of waves and the cries of a distant seagull. Mark knelt by the engine hatch, his face tense. His fiancée, Sarah, stood nearby, holding a bottle of water. Jake was sprawled out, trying to lighten the mood with a bad fishing pun. Chloe, the quiet one, just stared at the water. "I told you we should have called it the Codfather," Jake joked. "At least it would have some muscle." Mark slammed the engine hatch shut, not helping Jake. "The engine's completely dead, not even a sputter. It's like something just switched it off." "Did you try the radio?" Sarah asked. 3 times, Mark replied, frustrated. "Static. We're too far out, way past where the map said we'd be." Chloe's voice was quiet, her gaze still fixed on the ocean. "The water is too still." They all looked at her. It was true. The boat wasn't rocking much. The surface was unnaturally smooth. "It's a nice change. I was getting seasick," Jake said, trying to be positive. "Glassy calm. Perfect for a float." "Not for this far out," Chloe insisted. "This water should be moving. It feels heavy." Just then, a low, vibrating hum started from beneath the boat. It was too deep to be the engine. Then, just as suddenly, it stopped. The silence that followed felt heavier than before. "What was that?" Mark whispered. "Mark, pull anchor," Sarah said, her voice urgent. "We need to try and drift back or something." Mark walked to the bow and grabbed the anchor line. He pulled, then pulled harder. His face turned from frustrated to alarmed. "It's stuck." Something snagged it. Suddenly, the anchor line snapped taut and was yanked downwards with terrifying force. Mark barely let go in time, stumbling back. "Holy, what was that? A whale?" Jake yelped. Chloe pointed at the rope disappearing into the depths. "Whatever it is, it just took 50 feet of rope with it. We need to signal for help. Now," Sarah said, panicked. "Mark, check the flares." As Mark ran to the supply locker, Chloe moved to the stern, gazing into the water. A faint scratching sound started against the fiberglass hull, like nails on glass. "Mark, look," she whispered. Mark stopped. Sarah and Jake joined Chloe. The smooth, dark water immediately surrounding the boat had turned into a slow, churning whirlpool, completely silent except for that faint, steady scrape against the hull. That's not normal," Jake stammered. "Something is under us," Mark said, his voice grim. "And it's big." The scraping stopped. The whirlpool slowed to a dead stop. Silence. Then, the boat lurched suddenly, but not from a wave. It felt like something was lifting it slightly from below. "Get inside. Get the flares. Now," Sarah screamed. They all scrambled towards the tiny cabin. Inside, the space felt impossibly small. Mark fumbled with the flare box. "Maybe we just hit a reef?" Jake asked, his voice trembling. "A really big, moving reef?" "Reefs don't hold boats," Chloe said, her tone flat. And the depth finder was at 1,000 feet. A massive clang from beneath the boat made them all jump, followed by a heavy, grinding sound. The boat shuddered violently. "It's not scraping anymore," Sarah shouted over the noise. "It's breaking something." Mark ripped the flare box open, pulling one out and preparing to fire it. The boat was jerked hard to the side. A heavy, wet thud landed on the deck above them. They froze, looking at the ceiling. "Stay quiet," Mark whispered. A slow, sickening drag echoed across the fiberglass deck, like a massive sack of wet sand being pulled along. Jake started hyperventilating. Chloe's eyes were wide, fixed on the closed cabin door. "Don't look at the window," she pleaded. But Sarah couldn't help it. She glanced at the small porthole window and saw a dark, slick, ridged surface filling the entire pane, moving slowly past. It was too large, too alien to be any known creature. She let out a short, terrified scream. A deafening crack hit the cabin door. Mark fired the flare out the porthole just above the door. A streak of bright red light shot into the sky. In that brief, blinding flash, as the door splintered, they all saw it, a giant, wet, black tentacle, thick as a man's torso, retracting slightly from the door. It was covered in sharp ridges and glistened horribly. "It saw the light," Jake whispered, broken. The boat was dragged again, faster this time. They heard a loud, sickening rip as metal was torn from the hull. Water started pouring into the cabin. "We're sinking." Abandon Marcus' words were cut off by a crunching sound that was wood or metal. It sounded like bones. The cabin went dark. All that was left was the sound of gurgling water, and then a final, desperate, half-drowned scream from the open sea. A few minutes later, the sun was still bright. The boat was gone. A few scattered pieces of wreckage, a floating cooler, a life jacket bobbed on the surface. The water was perfectly still once more, glassy calm, unnaturally smooth. The distant sound of the seagull was the only noise in the vast, empty silence. Thanks for watching. You've just bought your dream home, a century-old house far from the city noise. You and your partner, Elias and Maya, are finally starting your new life together. But some houses have secrets, and this one, its secret is locked behind a grandfather clock. This is the story of the Clockwork Door. Imagine this. It's late at night. You're in the dusty living room of your new old house. Elias is struggling with a massive grandfather clock, a relic left by the previous owners. It's bolted to the floor. This thing is a beast, he grunts, sweat beading on his forehead. Why would they bolt it to the floor? It must weigh 200 pounds. Maya, who has always felt a strange energy in the house, pauses her sweeping. Maybe they were just really afraid of being late, she says, a nervous smile playing on her lips. Or maybe it was covering something. Elias just scoffs at her spooky theories. He gives one final, mighty heave. With a groan of protesting wood, the clock tumbles forward, landing with a muffled thud on the carpet. And there, revealed on the wall, is a patch of wallpaper that doesn't match the rest. Elias smirks. Well, look at that. You and your spooky theories. He runs a hand over the mismatched paper. It feels thin, fragile. He pulls a utility knife from his belt and carefully cuts a square. Behind the peeling paper is not wood or plaster, but cold, hard iron. It's a circular door, like something from an old bank vault or a submarine. It has no handle, no knob, only a complex web of rusted gears and a single, tiny peephole covered by a sliding metal disc. Maya's voice is a hushed whisper. Elias, what is that? A safe? Too big for a safe, he replies, his curiosity now fully piqued. Looks like something from an old bunker. He slides the small metal disc away from the peephole. He cups his hands around his eyes, leaning in to peer into the darkness beyond. It's pitch black, he reports, and it smells like burnt sugar and damp cloth. Gross. He starts to pull back, but then slap. A quick, wet sound smacks against the inside of the peephole. Elias jerks his head back, his heart pounding. What was that? Maya asks, her voice trembling. I don't know, Elias says, trying to sound calm, trying to convince himself. Felt like something touched the glass, probably just condensation. He quickly slides the peephole cover shut. The metallic click echoes in the silent room, a sound of finality. But this is only the beginning. Later that night, the couple is in bed. The old house is silent, except for the usual creaks and groans of settling wood. Elias, ever the practical one, is already making plans. We should call a structural engineer tomorrow, he says. See if we can get that door open. Probably just a Prohibition-era wine cellar. But Maya is far from convinced. She's staring into the darkness, her imagination running wild. Elias, I don't think we should open it, she says nervously. That slap, it didn't feel accidental. Come on, Maya, he sighs, trying to reassure her. It's a 100-year-old door in a dark hole. The house is just settling. Now get some sleep. He turns to kiss her goodnight, but her gaze is fixed on something past him, towards the living room. And then they hear it, a low, scratchy whisper, seeming to bleed from the very walls of the house. It's too faint to make out the words, just a soft, unsettling murmur. Did you hear that? Maya whispers, her eyes wide. Just the old pipes, Elias says, rubbing his tired eyes. This house is full of creaks, but then the whispering intensifies. It's clearer now, distinguishable as a single, childlike voice, chanting softly, slowly, from the other side of the wall. 1, 2, he's coming for you. Elias bolts upright in bed. That was not pipes. He and Maya lock eyes, frozen in shared terror. The whispering stops as suddenly as it began. It came from the living room, Maya says, her voice barely audible. Near the clock, without another word, Elias grabs a heavy flashlight from the nightstand. Stay here, he commands, his voice firm despite the fear coiling in his stomach. He swings his legs out of bed and walks toward the living room, his every footstep echoing the frantic beat of his own heart. He enters the living room, the beam of his flashlight cutting through the oppressive darkness. He shines it directly on the circular iron door. His blood runs cold. The small metal disc covering the peephole is no longer fully closed. It's slightly ajar, a sliver of perfect blackness visible through the gap. I know I closed that, he mutters to himself, his voice shaking. He reaches out to slide it shut, to seal away whatever is behind it. But as his fingers near the cold metal, he notices something else. The complex gears on the door's surface. They're moving, slowly, almost imperceptibly. They are turning, grinding against decades of rust with a low groaning sound. It's the sound of a great mechanical beast waking from a long slumber. Elias realizes with a surge of pure panic. The door isn't just sitting there. It's trying to unlock itself. Maya, get out of the house. Call the police. He yells, his voice cracking with fear. He throws his entire body against the door, his shoulder slamming into the cold iron, trying desperately to stop the gears from turning. But the grinding only speeds up, growing louder, more insistent. Maya rushes in from the bedroom, her phone clutched in her hand. Elias, what are you doing? She cries out. It's opening. The gears are turning. He screams back, his muscles straining against the immense unseen force. He hears a wet gasp from the peephole, which is now wider. The sickeningly sweet smell of burnt sugar and damp cloth floods the room, so thick it makes him gag. In that moment of chaos, he catches a reflection in the smooth, dark metal of the door, and what he sees makes his heart stop. A figure, a tall, thin figure is standing right behind Maya in the archway to the bedroom. Maya, look behind you, he screams, a sound of pure, unadulterated panic. Maya spins around. For a fraction of a second, she sees it. A tall, skeletal shape, its eyes like sunken pits of shadow, its mouth stretched into a silent, impossibly wide grin. It looks wet, as if it just climbed out of a long-forgotten well, and its hands look like long, rusted pieces of metal. Then, a deafening crack echoes through the house as one of the gears on the iron door snaps completely. The entire door shudders violently. Maya lets out a piercing scream that seems to stretch and fade into nothing. Elias pushes with all his might against the shuddering door, his mind screaming. He risks a glance over his shoulder. Maya's gone. The archway is empty. There is nothing there. He looks back at the door, his eyes wide with a horror that threatens to shatter his sanity. And then from the other side of the door, he hears it, a low, contented chuckle. It's followed by a soft, chillingly clear whisper, spoken right against the metal, as if the speaker's lips are pressed to the peephole. 3, 4, better luck next time. Instantly, the gears stop turning. The peephole slams shut with a final, decisive click. The putrid smell vanishes. The room falls completely, deathly silent. Elias is left alone, pressing his full weight against a silent, locked iron door. He's breathing in ragged gasps, his body drenched in sweat and covered in the dust of a house that is no longer a dream but a tomb. He is alone, and the thing that was trying to get out is no longer inside. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy stories that explore the hidden horrors that lie just beneath the surface of our world, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. What do you think happened to Maya? And what will the entity do next? Let us know in the comments below. Stay safe, and always be careful what doors you open.